So, Carl Zaw, I was just putting out the government work report here for the 2 sessions, and man, I'm out of breath because I had to unload it. We already got 1,000 people watching us. So, tell me, sir, Trump's conversation last night to the country, and then you wake up this morning, and here's China in 2 sessions. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's actually pretty surprising that there's not that much coverage in the Western media of 2 sessions in China. This is like one of the most important country in the 21st century, right? I mean, this is just like one of the most important political event in one of the most important country in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happened?
No, it's okay. You're good. You're good. Don't worry
my
about our
internet.
backstage.
Let me make sure I'm connecting to
No problem. You deal with that, Carl. I'll just take everybody on to slide 6, okay? While you're fixing that behind the scenes.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, we'll come back to you in 2 seconds, Carl. So anyway, China's key development task for 2025, in addition to the specific targets that I showed you guys before, the 2025 GWR outlines 10 key tasks for 2025. These tasks focus on priority of economic areas and development goals and include measures for boosting, I love that word, boosting consumption, modernizing industries, attracting foreign investment, and promoting green development and transition, among others. Okay, I think we got you back, Carl. No problem. And I'll get to those 10 key points later. And yes, you're talking about, Trump's got all the airwaves yesterday. Yeah, this is a major event here. What's going on?
I think the English language media, they just don't know how to cover China. I mean, they cover China from a certain angle. We all know that, right? I mean,
right.
from a China bad angle, but they really don't know how to cover like just one of the most important political events in China. In one of the most important country in the 21st century. And even from the perspective of, say, how China may react to the Trump tariff, which is very important, right? I mean, like that's people just don't know how to cover that, and the fact that China is well prepared because China has saw it coming long, like they have been prepared under the Biden administration for more sanctions, and they were, when Trump won the election, they know what is coming. Unlike, say, Canada, Australia, EU, Mexico, right? Like all the supposedly U.S. allies, they're the one who got caught with their pants down, that they were acting surprised. China was not surprised about this at all. In fact, they were preparing for even more tariffs. And when the Trump said, oh, just additional, they were preparing for like additional 60, 75% tariff, right? And when Trump said, oh, it's an additional 10, 15%, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal because China has spent years preparing to decouple from the United States, from the U.S. market. A lot of people in the U.S. they still think China cannot live without the U.S. consumer market, which couldn't be further from the truth. China, the external trade composed about 19% of China's total economy. And out of that 19%, only 15% goes to the United States. So we're talking about 3% of China's GDP is directly tied to trade with the United States. And so tariff is definitely going to have an impact. It's going to hurt, but it's not existential. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's substantial. It's going to, some sector is going to feel the pain, feel the squeeze, no doubt. But China have been preparing this for a long time, and they're not even right now. If you look at the 2 sessions, right, the Trump tariff is not even on the list. They're not even like, it's not even on the priority. They have way, one of the top priority for China right now is boosting consumer spending, because a lot of people don't realize how much cash average Chinese household is stashed away in their bank accounts. Like if you compare, the average Chinese household save about 40% of their income, which is huge. Before I was like, wow, that's a lot. Then I look at myself, I actually do that. So I think it's cultural thing because I look at myself, I save about 40% of my income, and it's also maybe because I grew up. I'm the first post-cultural revolution generation that grew up in China, so I still hear a lot of stories from my parents, my grandparents about the hard times. So my mentality is still saving, stashing away for the rainy day funds, right, as much as possible. So now what Chinese government want to do is they want to encourage people to spend, and we saw the power of China's consumer market in more recent stuff like the movie in the movie industry, for example, in Nezha 2, which we had
we saw
done
that.
a show about. Now it just broke it made over $2 billion USD in the box office. Unprecedented, not top grossing animated film and non-Hollywood movie, like in that category.
I'm surprised.
Go ahead,
Carl. I'm surprised they played it in the United States on the sake of national security. I mean, you know how these things are, right? And I can tell you, after today, I mean, this is some pretty explosive news coming out here. I think that 5% GDP target is bold, okay? And if they pull that off, that is great news for China in 2025 here. That is very hard to sustain that. They did it last year. They're saying it again. And as you said, they anticipated, what this new administration was going to do. Like you said, 60, maybe 65, 70. I was hearing those rumblings. Oh, this is going to be a hard impact, but we'll make it. And then you hear this, well, maybe 10, maybe 15. And everyone's like, okay. Now, there are ways to really offset those tariffs. And for people to understand is that these tariffs are not being paid by exporters from China. They are actually paid in full to the customs clearing agents when a container arrives in the United States. The price that goes out of China is the price that goes out of China. Now, that's up to the business on the other side of the water, that big, beautiful ocean, that when those containers land there, the custom agent says, all right, here's your duty, here's your tax, here's your tariff, right? Now, the importer might say, okay, we can handle that. If you don't think Walmart was front loading on goods coming out of China for the last 6 to 9 months, these are not dummies, okay? These guys have major retail stores across the United States, Costco, you name it. They were bringing stuff in, quote unquote, by the boatload and storing it into facilities there, preparing to this. Keep an eye on those companies over the next 6 months because they might just surprise you, even though we hear massive tariffs coming to Chinese goods. These companies might have weathered the storm. And also, another thing to keep in mind that it really does, I think it really affects the small business owner when they have to pay that, that 10 or that 15 or 20%. That's up front. That's before they even sell the goods. So imagine that extra 10 or 15%. And it's really, really important to take that into consideration. You're an American buyer. You're importing from a trusted supplier that you've been building a business for a year, and whammo, it comes. Now they'll say, oh, well, the government's making lots of money. Well, yeah, it is, but it's hurting the business owner. That money's coming from somewhere. It's definitely not coming from here. Now they say, well, that encourages us to, bring our manufacturing back to the United States. Good luck. Good luck bringing manufacturing back to the United States. What are you going to make refrigerators now, guys? You're going to make televisions? You're going to make game console units? You guys aren't even making movies that make any sense anymore. Carl, over to you.
Well, CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, has said this tariff hurts us because a lot of Americans don't even realize a lot of Chinese-made car parts going to American-made cars. all Detroit Big Threes, they source a lot of the Chinese components directly out of China, and now they have to pay a 15% tariff on top of that. It's just going to pass to the consumers. Now, for a matter of encouraging domestic production in the United States, even slap 15% price increase, American-made products still not going to be able to compete with made in China goods. I mean, it's just the price is not. They have to slap on like 400% tariff to make a difference. I mean, 15%, it's just going to increase the general inflation. But most people would still buy Chinese because it's still far more cheaper, even with paying the tariffs, than to buy domestic ones. And a lot of the parts, they're not being produced domestically anymore. It's going to take years to start up that industry again. I mean, it's China has a government that can gear to like a whole society approach industrial policy. United States, I think they're doing it like half-ass way, and I just don't think it will work because the U.S. government is not structured to do industrial policy in such a way. I mean, Trump just scrapped the CHIPS Act, where Biden administration started trying to hand over a lot of money to companies like TSMC to encourage them to make semiconductor domestically in the United States. Now Trump said, "Oh, you know what? Forget it. We're going to scrap that." So this is barely like 2 years. After billions of dollars have been handing out, and there's nothing for show. There's nothing to show for, and this is the way of things are in the United States. Policy can change on a dime in everything can be thrown out after an election. So I don't think the reindustrialization of America can happen without a major restructuring of the government and society in the U.S. And I just don't see that happening. Did I lose you, Mr.? I'm done with my ranting, Mr. Mr.
Go
Alex.
ahead. Yeah, Carl, go ahead. I'm just going to set up another camera here. Continue.
Okay. I mean, I said my piece. I just don't think the U.S. government is set up to do a serious industrial policy that will enable reindustrialization of the United States. If anything, all these kind of changes in policy, from Biden to Trump, it's gonna steer into the other direction. Like I said, even slapping 15% additional tariff on China is still not going to make American products price competitive. I mean, like the Chinese, you see, like the Chinese EVs that even if you say slap 100% tariff, they will still be competitive in price wise. But they're just not having it. As for they allowing to show the movie Nuts, I mean, the movie thing they have been doing for a long time because China do allow imports. Like they have a quota set aside for Hollywood imports every year, and Hollywood's still looking to make a lot of money in China because China is the world's second largest film market, and very soon it's going to be the world's largest film market. And if you can see the latest box office number from China, all the top 5, they're all domestic Chinese film. Hollywood didn't even make the cut. So that's where the money is. And the AMC, ever since they got bought out by the Chinese Wanda Group, they have been showing Chinese films in the United States. I think that the Wanda has sold their stake now, but AMC is still doing their practice of showing Chinese films in cities with large Chinese population because they know they will sell. Like as far as I know, in all the limited theater release of Ne Zha 2 in US, many of these theaters are sold out.
Yeah, it's impressive numbers coming out from that. Now, you brought up new energy vehicles, not me. All right. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant on this one. You see, the average consumer thinks that these cars in North America now, I've just completed, I think, the third filming of a series of 10 new energy vehicle companies I'm doing here in China. I think I'm on third or fourth filming as we speak. But I'm going to be very clear to the audience here, so that you understand what is coming to the shores of your country if they haven't already. There has been considerable pushback, and we heard it in the speech last night in Congress, where they did pull some of the subsidies for new energy vehicles in the United States. I'm going to tell you, there's a new consumer out there. It's not necessarily about the technology in these cars. It's a new consumer, and that consumer is a young person that is getting into the car for the first time. They have much different expectations than we'll call I interviewed somebody at CATL last year. They called them dumb cars. Okay. And the dumb cars are the cars that have the old speedometer and the old clocks, and probably some of them they're still selling with, CD players in them. Or then you have the new cars where you go in that have zero gravity seats, 1,000 kilometer distance on charging, 6-minute battery charge for 500 kilometers, heated seats, onboard ambience, seeing 1 kilometer into the distance during torrential rain or fog or whatever, you name it. These cars are the new standard for the new buyer, and this is the expectation. This is the bar. Yes, there's going to be consolidation in the new energy vehicle market here in the foreseeable future. Of course, that's like with any industry, right? But once these cars start to get into markets, and they're all over the place. They're in Belarus. They're one of the top selling cars in Belarus now, new energy vehicles. In Norway, in European Union countries. We're seeing it in South America as the Belt and Road kicks in and starts to get these cars. America, wake up, guys. Because you're going to be literally left in the dust by this technology. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that for some people that have not been in a new energy vehicle, they might think, I got to spend $100,000 on a Tesla or nothing. It's not about that. When you come to, next time you travel to Asia, I was just in Thailand a couple of months ago. New energy vehicle, new energy vehicle, new energy vehicle, new energy vehicle. Even if you order a taxi on their apps, you can choose a new energy vehicle. Do it. Try it once. Try it twice. You will be like me. The first experience I had in a new energy vehicle market car was I got out of the car and I walked to the back and I said, is there a muffler or tailpipes on this car? And there wasn't. And I said, bang, that's it. Sold. I'm totally sold on this. So these are important elements. And this is going to bring me up to the next point here. One of my final slides here on the 2 sessions, and I'll just take off this comment. Thank you for asking the comments, by the way. Here are 10 key points: boosting consumption, development and upgrading the industry, development, science and innovation, promote implementation of landmark reform measures, expand high-level opening up, prevent and resolve risks in key areas, promote rural revitalization, promote new urbanization and regional coordinated development, promote carbon reduction, pollution control, green expansion and growth, ensuring and improving people's livelihood while enhancing social government efficiency. Now, as you said, Carl, quite a bit different from what we heard last night.
Yeah, boosting consumption was on the top. Boosting consumption was on the top because, like I said, Chinese consumers are flush with cash. They have a lot of cash in their bank account, and Chinese government's now trying to encourage people to spend it. I mean, I'm looking forward to see what kind of policy they come out to encourage spending, because they also realize, one of the way to replace the export-led growth, for example, is encourage domestic consumption. A lot of talking among the English language media are the people who assume that, China is going to die off America not going to buy their product. And like, no. People who make things don't need people who make nothing, right? I mean, like right now it's traditionally, they still think like China being the low cost producer for like toys and electronics stuff like that. No. China is now moving into advanced manufacturing. I think that's one of the point basically when they talk about innovation. China is now a lot of the new energy vehicles that you talk about. They've been producing lights off factories. They turn the lights off because the whole factory floor is automated by robots. They don't need lights. The robots don't need to see. And so right now, like they can roll out, they can ramp up production very quick, and they can make it for the Chinese consumers. A lot, like you said, a lot of Chinese car buyers today, they're first-time car buyers. They have different expectations. They have different when they looking for a car. That maybe they want their car to look and feel like a console, like a PlayStation console. and because some of the car, that's what it reminds me of. Like inside the buttons, looks like a gaming console, because that's those new first-time buyers are looking for. They're looking for something they're familiar with, something they're comfortable with. They're looking for more technology in their lives. And China, China lead the world in advanced robotics, right? And they're employing a lot of robots in the manufacturing process. That's dramatically reducing the cost. People in the United States still think like China used like slave labor, sweatshop. No. They use robots. Okay, they use robots to plant trees in the Gobi Desert nowadays, and the idea is now like they can produce for the huge, potentially huge domestic market. I grew up in a time long time ago in the 1980s when China, at that time, everything was imported, from transistor radio to fertilizer. China had to import them because China was exporting raw commodity like crude oil to Japan and importing refined petroleum product like fertilizer because China lacked its own refining capability. And now China is making it. At the first, it was import. A lot of people overlook the China developing story. Is a lot of the China manufacturing story is about import substitution. Before everything was imported, and now China is now making the parts they can use. That's not they don't have to rely on foreign suppliers anymore. And then later they go to export. Now it's coming back to this cycle where now Chinese consumer are now have more disposable income. They don't have to rely on the export market anymore. They don't have to rely on that U.S. market where U.S. government through policy is trying to restrict the market access. So this is why this is another reason the government is placing heavy emphasis on boosting consumption. So most of the new energy vehicles that China produces today, majority of them are being sold in China. They're not coming to the United States, not coming to North America, because Canada also follows suit to slap 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. So they're not. They are producing mostly in China for Chinese domestic market, and then they go out to the global South countries to put factories over there to produce for the local market. Like where I am in Bali, I'm waiting for the BYD to finish their first factory in Indonesia this year. So by their goal is to produce their Indonesian produced BYD cars by January 2026. So by that time, the price here will come down as well because Indonesia, they also have tariffs on imported foreign cars to encourage domestic production. This is why BYD is investing in production over here. So once that the BYD have Indonesia produced car, the price will come down. Just like Thailand, when BYD opened a factory in Thailand, price in Thailand came down. And
of course, because Thailand puts a 200% markup on vehicles. So, this is a question here. Somebody's asking, speaking of cars, why is the price still around 40K? I'll give you some advice, Francis, on that. Compare the prices in China. It's very easy to see. You go on the internet, you check out these prices and compare them and ask why. Because I rather doubt that there are direct sellers in these countries. They might be using intermediaries. And also, something that I saw at the Guangzhou Canton Fair, and of course we have it here in Chongqing because Chongqing is the motor city of China. But at the Canton Fair, I saw a lot of individual buyers wanting just to come over to that show to buy a car to export it to a country because they simply didn't have it in the country. So when you're seeing people doing that at that stage, it means that there's going to be a demand there, and it's, as we say, the dam is eventually going to break. I just wanted to give you guys a quick look here at Sparky. This is in Chongqing here. During China's 2 sessions this year, a desktop robot dog from the Chongqing delegation became a spotlight item. Named Sparky, this robot dog not only has flexible joints that allow it to mimic real dog movement, but it also features dance and emotional interaction capabilities. Come shake hands at the command. The robot dog extends one of its first paws and handshakes. Anyway, once again, I wanted to share that with you guys. As Carl was talking about robotics and stuff like that, we continue to see stuff like this. It's just another day in China, Carl.
Yeah, and like, for example, AI. U.S. that placed a lot of emphasis on AI, right? But a lot of the money is going to like large language models, which basically chatbots. But in China, AI was applied differently. They apply AI to manufacturing. They apply AI to advanced robotics. They apply AIs to making cars, to automate the process. So and when the deep state seek became popular, the adoption was very quick across the board in China. Everybody now is incorporating DeepSeek in their AI search and everything. So this is the area where Chinese government had been paying attention, because they had the Xi Jinping and all these top leadership already met with the DeepSeek CEOs, and so they've been obviously paying attention, and so they are. This is a part where in the 2 session where they talk about continued innovation. China will continue its progress in AI, in advanced manufacturing, and there's nothing that U.S. sanction can stop. The whole idea of chip sanction on China was to stop China's AI progress. But DeepSeek just showed that China reached parity with U.S. even with the chip sanction in place. So this China will not be stopped. The China will continue to move forward in the advanced manufacturing. I mean, right now, China is a manufacturing superpower. There's no. This is why I think I'm kind of pessimistic about their plans to reindustrializing America. First, they need to sort out their own structural issues in the United States, and I don't think the people in the government are serious about that right now. And so. Yeah, I think China will continue to power forward. China has such an edge right now in advanced manufacturing. I just don't see U.S. will be able to compete at any time. This is why the trade barriers are going up, because they also know, Elon Musk said himself, if there's no trade barriers, Chinese new energy vehicles going to kill all the automate industry in the United States. and Canada. Well, I don't know if Canada have a car industry. Canada's car industry is all just like assembly for the other brand, foreign brands, as far as I know. Yeah, but they also decide to stupidly. Go ahead.
I love having these conversations with you because you are one of the very few that understand this new energy vehicle market and this investment in technology. Most people around the world think, oh, well, if China has DeepSeek, how did they get it? Did they steal intellectual property getting it? How did they advance the chips if they weren't allowed to have it? And there's this consensus that this country is, left in the dark, but there's innovation every day here. I feel it myself living in the city of Chongqing, one of the world's largest municipalities here. I spent 2 weeks watching how this municipality put lights on buildings, how they installed it, how they orchestrated it, why it was important. It was an eye-opener to me. I learned so much about it. I thought, okay, yeah, these are lights on buildings. Wait a minute. Millions of people watch this, which brings millions of people to stimulate the economy at nighttime. And they're advancing more and more and more. And, the city takes this stuff serious. It's not like a couple of light bulbs on, the Empire State Building and a few light bulbs down the street at the Chrysler Building. This is serious stuff, and they're innovating. And while they're innovating, they're trying to find ways we've heard light pollution, how they can, put less harm into the environment, how they can, get this, Carl. I don't know if you've been home much, but to the viewers, Carl is a Chongqing born native. The Jialing and the Yangtze River, where they meet, there's the Raffles. It's a big development, one of the largest developments in the city, quite pricey. There's a few hotels, a few apartments in there, lots of businesses in that area, and it's an iconic building. And I asked the guy when I was interviewing him, is there something that you haven't shown us? And he says, look, have a look at the screen. And I said, okay. And he said, do you notice anything about it? And I said, well, no, all the buildings look amazing. It's bright lights. He says, any dead spots? I said, dead spots? What do you mean dead spots? Any dark spots? And I said, okay, a couple. Well, we're working on that. I said, but it's in the water. Doesn't matter. We're working on that. I said, well, I said, not to be greedy or anything, but, this is my view at night from Jiang Bay. I get to see the Yuzhong district at night. I said, could you guys light up the bridge a little bit more on the top arch? The guy actually said, well, you did mention that. I said, it's not, we need more lights. Yeah, just like my dad said at Christmas time. But Carl, it's exciting stuff. And to think that when I heard the administration, I'm going to use the administration because I'm not just going to use Donald Trump here, because he is a pretty smart guy, but sometimes other outside influences do steer him, unfortunately, in the wrong direction. If he's listening, if he's watching tonight, Donald, the innovation from China is something that you need to embrace. It is going to happen whether you want to save those jobs. It's like telling everybody, here comes, LCD, plasma screens, whatever they called them in the 70s. The old tube televisions are going out. You don't stop you don't save the VCR business because innovation is coming because you want to save. You innovate. And that's the thing. Elon knows that. Come on, he knows that. He's in China. He's got a massive factory in Shanghai. He knows what's going on here. I get it. I understand shareholder value. I get that. But can't Elon just kind of give a call to BYD and say, let's do a couple of cars together? Because that would take the world on. Wouldn't that be amazing if both those manufacturers got together and made a car together for the U.S. market?
Well, BYD, not BYD, but Tesla, they manufacture more than 50% of their cars in China, in Shanghai Gigafactory. And at least in China, I don't know about their US production, but in China, the Tesla produced in Shanghai, they use CATL batteries. They use the Chinese batteries because China dominate the battery space. China completely dominate the battery market. That's how BYD started. BYD started as a battery maker, and then they moved from battery transition into making electric cars. And China has a big lead in the battery. This is why Jim Farley, the Ford CEO, he was gonna, Ford was set up. They have a deal with CATL to use CATL batteries in the Ford produced new electric vehicles. This is why he's upset at Donald Trump for slapping tariffs on China, because he's making those cars more expensive in the United States because the Ford is sourcing all these Chinese components from China. Now Ford has to pay 15% additional tariffs. This is
there's no way out.
A lot of the cooperation is already happening. But a lot of people still don't understand it, including the people in the government. They still don't really understand how tightly one the two economies are.
It's pretty crazy stuff. And, this, I got another news clip to bring up here. There's a few, so much news coming out of here. This one talks about, let me bring it up here. Once again, Chongqing proposes to build a national influential innovation center. Just talks about the proposal builds on a series of national policies, including the Chengdu-Chongqing Economic Circle construction plan outline in October 2021. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Key challenges. There's 100 million people in this economic circle between us and the sister city of Chengdu. You guys, if you want to read this, I will put the links in the description below here that you guys can read stuff like that. We have another one that comes out of here. China unveils resilient growth target with strong policy support. These are all things that Carl has brought up. It's about accelerating, putting money into investment, moving forward, and getting behind innovation. The government gets it here. Why don't they get it in other nations, Carl? Is it because they're too busy dealing with being popular? What is it that they just don't get?
Well, I don't know. If you look at a country like Mexico, for example, right? Mexico car market was dominated by foreign brands anyway. So for them, they're kind of neutral on the Chinese imports. When China BYD goes create a factory in Mexico, creating jobs locally. It's the same. It's from standpoint of Mexican government, it's the same as American or German company automaker goes to Mexico and open a factory. So a lot of the countries, many countries in the global South are more like in the Mexico position, where they're neutral. They're more neutral toward Chinese investment. If anything, Chinese investment is also investment. It's money coming in. It's job creation. So whereas Donald Trump himself, he said he welcomes Chinese investment, but the problem is with the past U.S. government policy since the Trump's first term, the Chinese company now have to think twice before they put money in United States, because that money can easily be frozen, be seized. Their CEO, CFO could be arrested, detained on some bogus charges. So even if Trump make some nice noises and then make some a policy change, there's nothing to guarantee that after another election, those policies are going to stay in place. It takes more than 4 years to open a factory and get it running and be profitable. But in United States, policy can change in 4 years, and then you're back to square one. So this is why stability is like a very important part of business environment. This is why a lot of people are putting their money in China because China actually have a stable political environment for the last 40 years. And like people, if you see where people put their money, they put their money in China. China was one of the major source destination for foreign capital investment. And that's just because these people with money actually trust the Chinese government not to fuck it up. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Here's an interesting question. Alex, who actually pays for the electricity? I understand that the local authorities pay, but that it's not an expensive matter. I mean, so much electricity. That's a very good question. Now, you want it? You want to take it?
That China, the one reason China has an edge in manufacturing is because China have cheap source of energy, including electricity. And if you look at China's power generation graph versus United States over the last 20 years, U.S. is essentially flat, right? And whereas China is going up like this, and we are to believe that somehow U.S. economy has grown, leap and bounds in the last 20 years, whereas supposedly the Chinese growth is all fake. When their electricity consumption was going on like this, and you can't fake data like that. You can't fake data like electricity consumption, right? And so China is and one of the way they're bringing the energy cost down is China is a oil hydrocarbon importer, right? It imports a lot of oil and gas. And this is why China has put a lot of money into research to bring the cost of new energy down. They did it in solar and wind. They really cut the cost of solar and wind to make it so cheap. Now China is basically paving the desert with solar panels. And this is why a lot of polysilicons are made in Xinjiang. Like this is why United States is slapping sanction on Chinese solar panel, claiming China is using Uyghur slave labor in Xinjiang, right? The reason why a lot of polysilicon are produced in Xinjiang is because the energy cost in Xinjiang had become so cheap because the proliferation of solar farms and wind farms in Xinjiang that made the energy in Xinjiang relatively inexpensive. And making polysilicon is an energy-intensive industry. So this is why the other polysilicon makers, they all move their operation to Xinjiang to make polysilicon because Xinjiang has a cheap source of energy. And it's a virtuous cycle because that makes solar panels produced in Xinjiang even cheaper. And that means the more installation across the board. So this is why if you look at how much new energy installation China adds on every year, it's equivalent of the entire power generation in countries like UK and France. It's like every year they're adding that much new energy component. I mean, this is huge. It's really big. Yeah.
And with that energy,
sorry, go ahead. Carl. I mean, that's why the energy is cheap in China. That's my point.
To add to that, just going to walk the viewer through what Carl is saying. Imagine this: solar panels, an amazing battery technology connected to it. Okay. It's a double punch. Okay. And if you think CATL is just making batteries for cars, think again. Imagine, and I've seen many things here over the last couple of years at some of these trade shows. Let's take it further. Battery-powered lawnmowers, battery-powered hair dryers, battery-powered municipality garbage trucks, solar-powered charging stations for battery cars, okay? Campsites that are battery technology. Police cars, fire trucks, equipment they all start usually at where things people ignore. No one's going to complain if they're, as long as their garbage is being picked up, they don't care if it's a diesel or if it's a battery technology. Oh, okay. So battery technology. Okay. That will drop the price of fuel consumption down for us. That will, less broken parts, less pollution. Let's start with that. Well, how about buses? How about getting your children to school by buses? How much money, time, energy will that save? And everybody's so razor focused on the big three. Got to save the big three. Got to save them. Don't bring these cars. Well, if they're not going to bring the cars, mark my words, this battery technology is coming. It's going to show up. It might show up in a lawnmower. It might show up in one of the coolest things I saw at the Guangzhou Canton Fair was the wireless television on wheels that you could roll around anywhere in the house, whether you're in the bathtub, the bedroom, or whatever, with a 17-hour charging cycle. I'll take one. Thank you.
and they're making battery cheaper and cheaper too. I had a guy. I live in Bali. We had people come here to evaluate how much it would cost to install solar panels on top of my house, and they discussed two options. One, just install their solar panels, which will produce electricity during the day. And another option is to add a battery pack, which they will store the energy. But the guy admitted, he's like, yeah, after a year, the price of battery will drop so much. I guess he's not a very good sales guy, but he admitted battery price is coming down, and China is a major factor in making that happen. And this is not just, by the way, all that nice thing that happens to the environment is just a icing on the cake. That was just a bonus. The one major reason China is going very heavy into new energy, sustainable energy development, is for strategic reasons. Because U.S. Navy has been talking for over 20-30 years about they're going to choke the Chinese energy supply at Straits of Malacca. All these oil containers coming from Persian Gulf, from Africa, they're going to choke them off at Straits of Malacca. So China has plenty of solar energy, wind energy, hydraulics, and they're going big way into nuclear as well. So that way, China will be more increasingly energy sufficient, and that there's nothing the U.S. Navy can do about it. Like when China, what are you gonna do about solar panels in Xinjiang, right? U.S. Navy, they can't drop their aircraft carrier into the middle of the desert in Inner Mongolia, right? So this is why China has been doing this. They had a plan for this for a long time. They have 5-year plans. Every two sessions they review their plans and making sure they're meeting their targets. So they have been hitting their target every year. This is the stuff that English language media do not report on. The actual meaty stuff, what China is actually doing, how they set target and how they meet their target. This is the stuff that actually would explain the China miracle story. Instead, you get the crazy story. You get the crazy thing called China just stole everything, right? China just stole all the intellectual property. That's why they got where they're today. Because the real story of China's amazing development, it just been completely ignored, because a lot of English language media just simply do not know how to report that. Because
I agree with you.
They can't, because they don't have an angle. They usually try to insert a political angle into this, right? That will make China look bad. Or they can't. In this case, they just can't really talk about it because China. Okay, yep. So China is preparing this for many years to be energy self-sufficient, so U.S. Navy cannot choke the Strait of Malacca. How can you tell that to your English audience, who expect United states to be like the protector of the sea lanes, right? Like to ensure the free and open Indo-Pacific. That kind of destroyed the whole narrative. So this is why they don't talk about it.
Well, anyway, Carl, it's a blast. I just wanted to tell everybody, if you didn't hear the first 15 minutes of this live stream, we covered a lot on the 2 sessions. Guys, I just want to show you this last little bit here, what Carl and I have been chatting about. Let me just see if I can share the screen here. Let me just do that. I recently, well, let's have a look. $. I give you the space capsule home, assembled in just 2 days. Forget renting. Welcome to modular housing made in China. Let's step inside one of the world's largest space capsule and modular homes assembly plants. This is the tour you don't want to miss.
We're going to call this the Apple House. Kind of reminds me a little bit of going to IKEA or Lego at the same moment. This has a 15-year warranty on it. Do we know how much something like this would cost?
$1,000.
This puts a motorhome to shame, actually. I have to tell you, it's quite relaxing. Truly an extraordinary way to own a home in today's world. It is possible. Can you believe a house can be built in just 2 days without using one single brick? Come and see for yourself. It's comfort and warmth, making you feel at home. Modular building materials meet international standards and incorporate a new.
Anyway, guys, I wanted to just show you guys that this is just some of the cool stuff going on. Amazing all over China. Chongqing is every day innovating. It's a truly remarkable city. Carl knows that. Carl, you're welcome to come home anytime. The city misses you. Get back here and see what this city has become. It's been absolutely breathtaking. And I'll tell you, this 2 sessions very important for the municipality of Chongqing here. Extremely important. And stay tuned to it, because this will continue throughout the week. Visit us on ichongqing.info, Bridging News. Also, our handles on Facebook as well as X platforms and YouTube, of course, iChongqing and Bridging News as well. Subscribe to all those channels. And do not forget Carl Zha. Carl Zha, where can we find you, sir?
I have my own YouTube channel. It's Carl Zha. That's my handle. I'm a prolific shit poster on Twitter. So it's Carl Zha on Twitter as well. That's my handle. And I also run a podcast, Silk and Steel Podcast, off my Patreon website, where, you know, I got to pay my bills to support my lifestyle in Bali. And you can subscribe. And I'm currently doing a chronological retelling of the Chinese history from very beginning. So I have reached 480 BC. So,
wow.
So 480 BC, to give you a context, that's a year of the second Persian invasion of Greece. That's a year of 300 people. That's a year of 300, and that's when Confucius was still alive. And so I cover Confucius' life story, and you know and China of that time period. You know, if you want to learn like in-depth Chinese history, subscribe to my podcast on Patreon. Just search for Silk and Steel. Search for Silk on Patreon. The first result should be Silk and Steel Podcast by me. And I just want to answer a question by Francis Tango.
Sure. Can I bring it up? Tell me where it is.
He said, why is Bali still so hot? And he went there in October 24th. So this is a public service announcement. Do not come to Bali in October. October is the hottest month in Bali. Do not stay away from Bali in October. You know, because normally there's the monsoon wind blows across the island, keep it cool. But the month of October, that's when it's a law when the wind changes. The wind switch direction from east to west. But there's 1 month in October, the wind stops. And that's really hot and humid. That's a month you do not want to be in Bali. Do not come to Bali in October. I hope I'll answer your question.
I'm gonna come see you though soon in October. I'm thinking maybe that's the best time of year to come down there. have the popsicles ready there. But fantastic, Carl. So once again, Carl Zaw, you gotta follow this guy. He's the walking encyclopedia for sure. It's been a tremendous time. Sorry, I brought you on late to the show. I don't know if that was my bad or don't know.
I was putting my kid to sleep. Sorry, I had to do my daddy duty today. So yeah, sorry about that.
Carl, so what can we see coming up on your channel in that next week or two?
I just do whatever I find myself finds interesting. I cover stuff like Chinese technology, like AI development, for example. I also talk about geopolitics. Talk about China's response to Trump trade policy, for example, and whatever catch my fancy. That I may decide to do. So, just you're welcome. Just check it out. Go to Carl Zaw on YouTube. Go to Carl Zaw on Twitter. Go to Silk and Steel podcast on Patreon. I have a lot of stuff.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic, sir. Anyway, weather's good now for you?
It's okay. Now it's okay. We're in the rainy season still. So like as long as when it rains, it cools down. But after a couple months, start from June, you'll be really nice. The wind will start blowing from the other direction. You'll be dry. It's dry. Starting a dry season is coming soon, and it'll be very, very nice. So summertime for people in the northern hemisphere, summertime is the best time to come to Bali. That's when it's actually cool. Yeah.
Actually, I've got your Twitter feed up here now, or X, we'll call it X. And I'm just
actually, I find out about the stream when I decide to tweet about Confucius today, and I saw that I am alive. I'm like, what? What alive? They were all like, oh crap! I'm supposed to do a live stream with Alex because in my mind it was tomorrow. Somehow I was thinking it's Friday, serious? And then I was.
Sorry, buddy.
Today, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, so like today, for some reason, I just decided to tweet out some random factoid about Confucius, and I saw that I am live on Twitter. I'm like, why am I live on Twitter? Did I get hacked again? And I realized,
No.
I had a thing with Alex. I totally forgot.
There we go. There's Carl Zaw's Twitter there, or X, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Silk and Steel podcast by Carl Zaw, hosts a Silk and Steel podcast on China, history, culture, politics. It's Silken. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Carl Zaw podcast at Gmail. And you got it all there. 175,000 followers. Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, Carl, hopefully we'll see each other soon. I think the last time we met, where were we? Was it on the Great Wall, or did we meet after that?
Yeah, when we talked in person, it was on Great Wall, sir. That was 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Well, I got to get down to Bali. I'm being pressured to go down there, so I'll get down there to see you soon. Okay?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, I look forward to. I mean, I might be coming to be closer to you. You never know. I might show up on your doorstep one day.
Food, drinks, accommodation, all on me. Anytime you come to the city, I've got you covered. Nice. Okay, sir. All right, guys, that's it. I'm just going to let our administration team here that's working the back end, let them know that we're ending in 20 seconds. Okay. There, I've just typed it off, so he's getting ready to go. Anyway, everybody, you guys take care. We'll play a little bit of music here to go out. And Carl, do you have any access to our chats? Do you see anything that you want to comment to, or?
I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at the comments.
I didn't connect your YouTube channel. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Just do it next time. Because I was late anyway. I was late for the first 20 minutes because I was putting my baby to sleep. So that's fine.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I'll let you get back to your dad duties as well. And I've got to get home as well. It's 10:20 here. Thanks, guys, for joining the live stream tonight on the 2 sessions. Extremely important day. If you missed us, joined late, get back to the start of this video. You'll see it in full detail. Carl Zaw joined the show part way through, I think, just a few minutes after I was done my ranting and raving. And what a pleasure it is to have you on the program again, Carl. You take care, sir. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Anytime,
All right.
Alex.
Bye. Bye.
Adios.